What's up, everybody? It's Camerupt back in the booth for some more Jimvitational main event content. Round 2 this time, Sadlysius versus Fakes. But first of all, thank you all so much for the kind words under my last narration. And also, speaking of thank you to all our donators, of course. If you want to see your name on the bottom right, go ahead and donate. And the bigger the prize pool is, the more hype the tourney gets, of course. Okay, as for Sadly and Fakes, both of these are players who have been playing for years. Both of them have played in Callus Invitational as well. I expect to see a good showing from both here. Let's get into it. Medicham lead and Tyranitar, that's about the worst thing you can see as the Tyranitar user. This thing threatens huge damage. And yep, that just drops. That doesn't even need to be CB to do that. Do we see sandstorm damage? Yes. No lefties. Oh my god. I assume Fakes was trying to pursue a choice band Medicham on like a Shadow Ball, Rock Slide or Focus Punch here. Those are all three viable clicks as the Medicham user. Sometimes even Baton Pass, but I would just click Brick Break in that case. Did not work out. Fakes probably doesn't have a good Medicham switch in. And sadly just goes into the obvious Magneton. And picks off the second kill in turn 3. And Fakes only has a layer to show for it. 2 Pokemon dead already. How is he gonna come back from this game? Celebi is checked by the DD Mens in the back here. Unless it is HPIs. No HPIs. It switches out. Salamence goes for the DD. Will it just take the damage on the Swampert? If it's a defensive one, that might not even kill the Ice Beam, but it does. So I assume we've got a pretty offensive Swampert here. And now we are gonna find out if this Medicham is Choice Band. That does not seem like it. I do not think so. This thing can switch its moves now and go for a massive Shadow Ball. And here it comes. 62%. Do you save this though? Yeah, I don't think so. Medicham goes down. Did some great damage though. Sadlysius trying to keep up the tempo here, pushing the advantage even more with Snorlax, which I figured would just get an easy kill here on Celebi. I assume Sadly was trying to predict a switch here to maybe a Swampert or a Metagross and try to curse up. But that did not work out because they ate a huge Psychic crit here as well, and now the Snorlax is just dead. Can Fakes make a comeback in this? Magneton sets up the Rain, that is for Suicune. Maybe even potentially Hera in the back, but since there needs to be a Rock Resist, I assume it's just the standard Metagross. And yeah, that Rain boosted Surf really hurts Gengar. And Magneton is a surprisingly decent Gengar check-in most circumstances in this one. Well, it was just a sacrifice like always. Or, you know, not always, but wow, Pursuit. Oh my god, that's interesting. Usually this is an Agility Metagross. That's awesome. That's some really cool innovation by Sadly here. Mixed Metagross chunks this Swampert because this team also does switch that well into Swampert. That's really interesting. And now we're looking at an endgame that Suicune can just win unless it gets like crit or Rock Slide flinched. There's a flinch. Okay, Sadlysius seems to be out of range though. Another flinch? No, and I assume with a modest Surf that, with a modest Suicune, that Surf should have always killed. But wow, what a nail biter of a game 1. We're apparently in for an exciting one, so let's immediately get to game 2 and see if Sadly takes this home in a 2-0 sweep or if Fakes can make the comeback and bring this to a game 3. Okay, Suicune lead for Sadly this time. Another T-Tower lead for Fakes. Suicune can either mean some very slow team. For example, a V5. But also super aggressive special offense with a offensive Suicune with like Hydro and Calm Mind. Sadly, interestingly, goes for Roar here. That kind of makes me think it's more of the Balancy archetype, which Celebi could also fit on, but the tables for special offense are still on. And Fakes, I think, has a pretty offensive team here as well. Wow, that is a choice band Tyranitar. Massive 72 into the Skarmory. That also reveals a lot about Fakes teams as well. CB Tyranitar loves Wish support. It loves it. So we could have a Blissey or a Jirachi in the back. And once again, Skarmory could still fit on these Balancy or more offensive special offense teams. But I could definitely see there still being a spinner for Fakes. Although I think at this point, like a Gengar and Aerodactyl are the more likely mons over Starmie. The Celebi is just trying to chip down the Blissey here for a free switch into something. On like a soft boiled. Thunder Wave is potentially massive because I don't think there will be a Duck Trio with Skarmory setting up the spikes to support the Mons. And sadly gets the right turn to switch out. Or rather, Fakes just didn't T-Wave, I guess. Okay, Zapdos is in to check the Suicune though. And sadly decides to stay in here, fires off a Surf. And I assume Fakes is fine with this trade. Because Zapdos is your Suicune check, of course. But maybe, sadly, also didn't have rest on the Suicune. And in that case, it would have been a very, very nice trade for them. I think with the damage that the Celebi did, that this has some sort of, at least a little bit of special investment. I'm not quite sure. 17 does seem like sort of low though. And Ice Beam 36. I think this thing has some decent bulk. And wow, with this Spadef drop, this thing is just gonna run through Blissey's soft boils here. Fakes needs to get a T-Wave off here to be able to soft boil more safely. Or has to try to hit a T-Wave on the switch. And that's the switch. Nails the T-Wave perfectly. A paralyzed Jirachi is so much worse than a regular one. Okay, Calm Mind is big here because that reveals finally, like, for good that Sadly's team is more offensive than Balancy, I think. And this Choice Band Tyranitar just chunks this Jirachi for so much. Although with a paralyzed one, you take that, of course. This thing isn't doing too much more in the battle. Fire Blast as well on Blissey, very interesting. What is Fake switch into Celebi at this point though? Because, you know, he still has 10 soft boils and that Ice Beam crit also is very massive actually. Celebi crits back with the Giga Drain? I don't think it mattered, like, to get it out of range, but you always take more damage and more health, of course. And Raikou's last actually gets it in on a softball turn. That means this thing can sub up now. And Blissey has to switch out because it's leech seeded. It cannot break through at all. It cannot T-Wave as well because it could set up a sub. Sadly, with a brave Calm Mind here. And baits the Gengar to boom because of that. Awesome, but Fakes also has the Duck Trio in the back here. And just picks it off. Wow, Porygon 2 makes a lot of sense last. when the Jirachi was revealed. At first I thought that would be another rock resist, because only having Jirachi as your sole rock resist is so scary into Aerodactyl and DD Tyranitar. Calm Mind Jirachi is just so finicky as a rock resist that it really likes that extra support. But on this team with Raikou, Celebi, Jirachi, and even to some extent Suicune, you need that anti-Dugtrio insurance. Otherwise Dugtrio is just gonna kill half your team. So Porygon 2 is a must here. We can actually speed this up because there are two things that can happen here. Either the Dugtrio gets stalled out so it struggles, or it just happens to get a double crit, get really lucky, and then the P2 loses this stall war. How many Earthquakes are left? Only 3. So it seems like, yeah, this Porygon 2 is actually gonna make it. There's the struggle. Now is P2 just gonna finish it off with an Ice Beam? Right, and this way it came out with some extra HP as opposed to just killing it after the EQ. But this Blissey has T-Wave. I don't think Sadly can break the Blissey really anymore. They could stall out some soft boils because, well, Fakes also cannot really break the P2. HP fighting also helps in that endeavor, getting rid of those soft boils. And oh my god, the paras are so scary here for Fakes. That is so scary. Gets off a super important soft bolt here, as well as a paralysis on the Porygon 2. This could easily go into Sadly's. This could easily go in Sadly's favor though, because I don't really see how Fakes breaks through this. He has to risk so many paras and crits here, while not being able to damage the Porygon 2 as easily as the Porygon 2 can damage the Blissey. Well, it's about even, I guess. But P2 has more recovers than the Blissey has soft bolts. I'm actually gonna speed this up. Not slow, I'm sorry, I'm gonna speed it up a bit. Should we go hyper fast? Because, well, this is just gonna come down to hacks. Fake says in the chat that he thinks he's losing this one. This is just a pure RNG fest though. The normal types just duking it out like that. Okay. One para here and it's over for Fakes. It doesn't come. Sadly also decides it's just safer to go for a recover themselves. Can Swampert really not do anything? Was this P2? I guess it's just too weak, huh? And the only thing it does is stall a few recovers. And it also would let the Celebi actually heal itself up with a Giga Drain even more. Yeah, I'm gonna put this to hyper fast at this point. Fakes only has 2 soft boils though, so he has to play this as fast as possible. And sadly sees it the same and just decides to go for some safe recovers here. And oh my god, that was so close. Yeah, Fakes has to soft boil now, otherwise it's just over. And there it is. That's the final para. And that means Sadlysius is gonna take this 2-0 over Fakes actually. Porygon 2 beating a Blissey 1-on-1. It's kind of funny. The fight of the Thunder Wave normal stallers, huh? Very, very interesting though. The end was a stall fest, but those were 2 quite exciting games as well, in general though. I mean, I really enjoyed the set. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a nice day.